Welcome everyone in another episode of Researchers Celebrities. And today we have Dr. Anirudha Lakshmi Narasimha with us. And a brief introduction about Dr. Anirudha is he has done his bachelor's in biochemistry at University of Mysore. Then he moved to University of Madras to pursue his master's in biotechnology. And he did his PhD from reputed IIT Bombay in molecular genetics lab. Then he joined Dr. Reddy's industry, and then presently he is at Bliss campus in Bangalore as leading a group, biochemistry group. Welcome, Anirudha, and thank you for spending some time with us.
Thank you, Raja, for calling me to this session.
Yeah. So our trademark question is like, how and when you thought that you want to become a researcher?
So it all started with my interest in biology. So that also was really, really long ago when I was a kid. To begin with, I was really interested in a lot of animals. So that's how most kids are, right? They just love animals. So I used to get a lot of pets for myself. So I had a rabbit, I had a parrot, I had a cat, I had a dog, I had fishes. So all of these. So it just started with that from just nature and animals, looking at them. And that was one side of it. The other side was I had closely seen doctors treat my father. That was really that when I was 3, 4 years old. And I used to closely observe these doctors, what exactly they are doing. And after that, kids at that time, they normally have only two things on their mind when it comes to profession. Doctor, either you can be a doctor or you can be an engineer. So
Mm-hmm.
mine was doctor because biology is related to doctor. I didn't know anything beyond that. So after 12th standard, I studied for the same, and then I did not get through. Okay, because it's highly competitive, and for some reason I did not really work hard. Exactly to 11th, I really worked hard. 12th, I did not work hard, so I did not get through. So after that, what? So I did get an engineering seat, but I decided not to go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was an option of me continuing biology, and I just came across this biochemistry course
Mm-hmm.
and in Mysore. So I enrolled for that. And when I joined that, I started reading biochemistry. Apart from whatever the regular curriculum was there, was
Mm-hmm.
taught to us, I also took keen interest in reading some of these, no, the textbooks of so-called textbooks of biochemistry. I just used to go through it like a novel, and then I really enjoyed it. So that's when the interest in biology and specifically to these applied sciences like biochemistry started.
Mm-hmm.
And then from a research perspective, that was really late because I never planned that, okay, right from the beginning, that I want to become a scientist, I want to become a researcher.
Mm-hmm.
Even after BSc, I was asking myself, next what? Then I wanted to pursue my studies because I liked biochemistry and biology. So I did my master's in biotechnology. And then when I was doing that also, I was keenly interested. I used to read a lot. Even after completing MSc, I was although I had this in my on my mind that okay, this is an option, research is an option. I also was thinking about doing a job,
Mm-hmm.
but then as and when I completed it, then I actually realized that no, I just want to go for research, and then I started applying in a different competitive field. So that although it was the thing is during that time there were not many people who could actually tell you what exactly to do. You had to figure it out yourself, and exposure was not so much. So we
Mm-hmm.
used to take it one step at a time at that time.
Mm-hmm.
That is one thing. And second is, although it was deeply engraved in me that research is something I could do because of the way I was reading stuff, I realized it at a later time point. But of course, it was not too late. Then I went for my PhD.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when this seed was taking its own time, you took your sweet time to think that this is something which you really want to do, and you will be pursuing this for future, like in your lifetime. That's what you really want to do. Moving from masters and joining IIT Bombay, because getting into IIT itself is something which is not very easy or dream for so many others. So when you landed in IIT Bombay, how that the ignited soul which was there of a researcher, how that nourished and how that journey went, if you can share some with us.
Oh, okay. So your first part of the question, what happened was a master. In fact, another aspect which I did to myself, which many students also do, is basically you undermine your own ability. Okay. Initially, I myself dismissed, essentially saying that, oh, these are all two premier institutes. How will I get into it? So that is something which most people also do, which one should never do because you never know your own ability.
Mhm.
I also did that, and then but then I applied, although I had that in my mind, and then luckily I got through. There was an interview panel where the maximum questions asked to me was from my PhD guide. So he was asking me a lot of questions on. I was explaining that on the board, and that's how I also connected with him. He connected with me. Probably that's the reason why I got lucky, and then I got a position in IIT Bombay. So once I landed in IIT Bombay, so that was the first time actually I was in a kind of a full-time research position,
Mhm.
and I give complete credit to my PhD guide for that because right from the moment I landed, he basically really took care of me.
Mhm.
And even today, I'm in touch with him. He's my mentor.
Mhm.
And uh, basically, believe it or not, your PhD is totally dependent on your PhD guide. Okay, how he sets the platform for you. So in this case, he was my PhD guide was gave total independence to me so
Mhm.
that I could read, I could do my research, I could enjoy it. At the same time, we used to have a lot of discussions.
Mhm.
And the transition from MSc to PhD into a full-fledged research environment, another most important transition was that my guide completely gave me independence. And also, he used to, the most amazing thing was, he used to listen to my viewpoints. Then I used to think, oh, even I have a viewpoint. So he made me feel that way.
Mhm.
So these are some of the nicer things which happened to me after I started my PhD, which really helped me, understand science and then start a career in science.
Nice. Okay, so this is one thing which presently researchers, some of them struggle, some of them are lucky, as you said, and they are convincing also that their viewpoint is very important. One another thing which you mentioned that it depends on your PhD mentor, your PhD guide, supervisor, a lot of it. What is missing in the researchers sometimes what I feel and as researchers also speak about, they feel that they don't have a say, they don't have this freedom to follow their dreams or their thoughts about the way they look at research. And one of the most beautiful thing about research is it is the same thing, the same word, the same paper read by 10 different researchers and bringing out 100 different possibilities to pursue it further. But what some the budding researchers faces are that they are not given due freedom or their viewpoints are ignored by their mentors. As you said, you were lucky to have one, and that's when how you got more uh, bandwidth for your wings, and that's when you started, more like flying part in research. So this is how your journey began. How long was your PhD, and how the initial passion went through?
Okay, so that's a very interesting question. How long was your PhD? So my PhD was for 5.5 years. It was not bad.
Mhm.
But initially, my PhD was positioned in such a way that we were trying to prove something from outside. They can be two types categorized into two. One is you're trying to prove something. Second is you're just trying to understand. You're doing some analysis based on which you're doing generating data. Okay, when you're trying to prove something, it can go either way.
Mhm.
It's either false or it's true.
Mhm.
And again, there, if it is false and still you're okay with it, you can still, write something because it's false and then come up with some hypothesis. It's fine. But in my case, it was a dead end. So I had to prove it is right. If it is not right, then I had nothing, essentially nothing.
Mhm.
So I really struggled hard for 3.5 years to prove something which we thought was true, basically a hypothesis, but I was not able to prove that. So
Mhm.
for 3.5 years, I did not have results. It
Mhm.
was a tough time also because I still remember I used to work till 12:30 in the midnight and then cycle back to my hostel. and then without results. Okay, no results, and then come back. There used to be a TV room in our hostel, so I used to just uh, sit in the TV room, and then it was like too many thoughts coming to my mind, and
Mhm.
slightly down before, and then go back to sleep. And this was the lifestyle in that time for me. So you just get up, have breakfast, go to lab, and then keep going to lab. In between, of course, have lunch, and then come back and sleep.
Mhm.
So really working hard, but initial time, since it was not great, so it was tough. But although it was tough, there was a lot of learning experience. So
Mhm.
in fact, I am thankful that my PhD was so tough, because of which I've gained a lot of knowledge and perspectives about how to troubleshoot different experiments. So this is the other aspect of failure, right?
Mhm.
And after 3.5 years, I changed. Of course, it wasn't the main core topic was the same, and slightly shifted my focus. And then I started getting results. And the next 1.5 years, I was able to get a lot of data. I generated a lot of data, which was sufficient for my PhD, and also not just data, but some insights about the sentinel transduction pathway, which I was working on, and
Mhm.
followed by which I completed in 5.5 years. So during this time, I have to say something extracurricular which really helped me focus on my PhD was dancing. So I never ever even I thought in my dreams I thought that I'll go to PhD Bombay and then resume dancing.
Mhm.
The moment I went there, because IIT Bombay is full of cultural activities, I just went there, and then I was just sitting once in the TV room, and I saw some people auditioning for dance, and somebody asked me, "Can you also do it?" I said, "Okay," and then I just danced, and people were like, "Whoa, why don't you come?" And then that's when it started. So this is something I'd also like to convey, that just focusing on one thing, like for example in this case research all the time, sometimes research can be frustrating and you need an outlet.
Mhm.
So this really helped me during those times, as
Mhm.
in it served as an outlet of my creativity,
Mhm.
and I could hold on to it for a long time.
Mhm.
So this was my PhD journey.
Okay, so here you brought a very important point, which is, I think, a lesson for all our viewers who are doing PhD or thinking of considering registration to PhD. So, as Ani said, that you do need an outlet. Research at times might be frustrating. Most of the time, it's fruitful and you enjoy because you work hard for it. But when you need something, extracurricular activity is something like, for some it can be biking, for some it can be some other thing. As for Ani, it was dancing. So let's talk about your dancing after that. So did you pursue it after your PhD also, or that was like left behind in IIT Bombay only?
Oh, definitely. I was not, there was something, I thought, what's wrong with me? I'm not able to, just let go of this. And I see a lot of people who, along with me, studied either in masters or bachelors or even during my PhD, who did some dancing during those times, and then they just forgotten about it. But here I was still pursuing it. So I continued teaching. In fact, I was teaching in a studio after coming back. While I was working, I in fact got in touch with many different institutes, dance institutes here in Bangalore, and I learned salsa. Then I started teaching for some time. Then
Mm-hmm.
I learned contemporary. I did a certification course, and I also continued dancing at home as well. And
Mm-hmm.
so through teaching and my own practice, I even today
Mm-hmm.
I still continue to dance, because I see dance from a different perspective, because I do some contemporary contact not contact improvisation, improvisation kind of a, dancing, wherein you're trying to understand the movement from a different degrees of freedom and all that. So this is more creative, and in fact, I feel it's more scientific as well. So a very interesting aspect of that, and that's why I like to. In fact, I like to continue this further. I never want to stop dancing.
Nice. No, that is very important to keep that back always, which you have. So now, moving back to the research, as you said, you continue dancing. From your PhD, you move to an industry.
Yeah.
The reason normally people go for postdoc and then they start looking for faculty position, which you are holding presently. Moving from academia to industry, and then coming back to research, like academic research or basic research. How, if you can summarize this for our viewers?
So, when I was doing my PhD, I was very clear that I would like to go for an industrial job. Not really industrial job. I'd like to do applied research essentially. Okay.
Mhm.
I was more interested in applied research, so that was clear. So, of course, during that time, industry was the only. Nowadays, of course, there are many institutes which do applied research, but now then it was industry which was basically undertaking applied research, and I also was trying to train myself for the same. So, like I said, initial 3 years, I did not have results. After that, what happened was I used to basically play around with my own planning, in the sense that can I complete Western Blot from 9 to 5? So these are some of the things I did, some experiments on myself, wherein I didn't want to work over a extended period of time, which most students used to do at that time, maybe sometime. Even here today, some students do. Like you just come to the lab, hang around, and stay overnight and all of that. So although that doesn't happen in industries, right? So that's what my aim was. So I not only wanted to go to an industry, I also want try to train myself that way. So the next 2 years, I just used to work from 9 to 5,
Mm-hmm.
and I used to be it used to be very focused, not even sit for 1 second,
Mm-hmm.
continuous working.
Mm-hmm.
That's how. And why applied research? I just asked this question to myself, and I actually think that probably that is because of like I initially told you that I've seen my father getting treated, and I wanted to do something which can directly, I can for which I can directly see some result
Mm-hmm.
myself. At least that's what I thought then. Okay, of course, this even applied research takes a long time, but that was the idea behind going for applied research. And after that, see, when I joined the industry, and I actually really enjoyed, for some reason, because maybe because since I already trained myself that way, and when I joined the industry, the initial days were because I was also working there to begin with after free PhD, and I really enjoyed the environment and the focused. That's what really, you know, I'm very and I really like that kind of an environment where people are highly focused and you know exactly what you want to do. Okay, there is no ambiguity in that. And this
Mm-hmm.
is what we want to do. This is the project which we work on. This is the outcome. This is the timeline that we want. So these kind of things, this kind of environment is what I was in, and that really helped me, build my career in field of industry.
Nice. So you said that there was, when you were pursuing your PhD, there was freedom. And when you moved to industry, how was that freedom? And because here everything is focused, you have given your timelines, you have given your projects, you are supposed to follow just the protocols. And when you
Yeah,
are
true.
doing your academic research or basic research in the research institutes, so you have that freedom that you can build your own projects. So in this aspect of freedom, how different are these three?
So that's a very interesting question. So like I actually earlier said, freedom, uh, you've been given that freedom, but you're basically self-disciplining yourself. That's what I actually did. I self-disciplined myself. So I set my own goals. So that is still, although you can still call it freedom, but I still have some timelines and goals for myself, as compared to somebody. When somebody else sets goals and timelines for yourself, you don't really call that freedom, but you need to be okay with that when you go to a setup like an industry.
Mm-hmm.
But you know how I handle that, I'll tell you. So what I used to do is, in industry, I never, like most of us, you don't like when somebody tells you what you need to do, right? So to overcome that, I always wanted to be one step ahead. So
Mm-hmm.
for example, I used to for in a project, let's say we need to complete activity one
Mm-hmm.
on for 7 days and activity two for next 7 days, and a project is planned that way. So even before my supervisor used to tell me that this is what needs to be done, I used to plan it well ahead and then to complete well ahead also. So I did not, I at least tried, if not successful all the time, tried so that my supervisor does not come any day and tell me that this is what you're supposed to do. So the
Mm-hmm.
moment I know I have an overview of the project or what needs to be done, I used to completely take over that
Mm-hmm.
and then work on it, work on the details, so make it successful as soon as possible, even before somebody comes and tells me. So this is the approach I used, and to some extent it was successful, and that way I avoided the people coming and telling me what to do.
Okay.
So after some time you also establish yourself in the same setup, right? And people start you know uh, believing you and in you, and then they don't then come and bother you anymore. So this is what exactly happened to me.
Okay, so here, Ani, if I have to ask you for suggestions for our viewers and the PhD candidates who are doing their PhD and are considering to build their career in industry, if you can suggest something, that what are the things they should be considering and what are the things they should not, very focused about, that okay, there are some things which you can just manage, there are some things which are critical, there is no other way you can do it.
Okay, so that's also a very a useful question for the viewer. So to begin with, I would also like to include masters as well as just to as a comment. I'll include masters as PhD and PhDs as well from a qualification perspective. So I always tell master students when some of them come to me and then tell me that I would like to build a great career in industry. I always tell them that no, you need to do a PhD, because it's very clear that although MScs also have a very good growth prospect in an industry, and PhDs as well, but when you compare back to back, there is a slight lag in MScs for obvious reasons. But because doing a PhD empowers you with so many different qualifications, like including understanding of the research and troubleshooting, planning, and all of those things. Because of which, externally also it is perceived that a PhD candidate is better qualified than an MSc with 5 years experience. You know what I mean? When you cannot, it's not equal that way.
Yeah.
So that's my first advice for master students is do your PhD. And then PhDs again, the next question is a postdoc required after PhD for you to go to an industry? At least a postdoc for 2 years or so will be great. It will be great, but not absolutely required for you to, build a great career in industry is what I would say. Because again, a postdoc, especially in qualified university, it need not be only now. Earlier it used to be only foreign, but a good now any good university or institute is
Mhm.
considered definitely considered as an add-on, because that can be considered equivalent to working independently. That's what they say, right? When you're doing postdoc, you're actually working
Yeah.
independently. So that can be around. So this is from a qualification perspective.
Mhm.
Now, the second aspect is what exactly your question was. What exactly how to prepare, right? How to prepare for such a scenario.
Yes.
So what happens when you're working either doing your PhD or let's say a messy project? So the techniques that you actually work on becomes very important, because for any job, the first, let's say there are many candidates and there is a candidate who does not have relevant experience, who has relevant experience. So if somebody has to compare back to back, they definitely go for a candidate with relevant experience. Now when I'm calling it relevant, what is relevant?
Mhm.
So there is when you talk about science, and in this case I'm talking about biology, life sciences. There are so many techniques, a range of techniques, right? Now the next question is whether all of these techniques are being used in industry. The answer is no, right? Not all of the techniques are used. So
Mhm.
there are some restricted techniques, restricted area as of now, as of today, which are actually used in the industrial setting.
Mhm.
So if somebody is interested in doing an industrial job, then they'll have to tally that. So they'll have to see, okay, I have these techniques, these qualifications, and whether these techniques are used in industry, which setup, which kind of industry, fermentation, biotech industry. There are again different categories, right? Where in the production setup.
Mhm.
So you will have to see. whether that tallies or not.
Mm.
So because I'm saying this because I've seen a lot of times that people just have a CV and then they don't understand this, and then they write when they want to get a job in industry, they write like they have deeper understanding of the concepts of signal transduction pathways and this and that. But that doesn't really, also that of course that is very important, but that is not what and somebody is looking for when for an industry job directly. Of
Mm.
course, for I'm talking about jobs which are technical. Industry jobs are mostly technical in nature. You have domain expertise and you want to execute something. So in that those scenarios, of course, there are other scenarios where you're trying to also in an industry setup. It's possible that you're trying to understand a pathway, trying to delineate something. So that's a different thing. But in majority of cases, I'm just talking about that. So this is the first thing that one needs to look at tallying. So
Mm.
accordingly, you can then fine tune your career so that you can match this and go specifically go for that particular industry. And then another thing is expand your capabilities in and around that area so you can plan it, because but this needs to be well planned. If you're sure from an early point of your career that okay, when you're studying your PhD that I want to go for an industry, then you have to look at what techniques you're doing.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of gap. I see that people do techniques which are not relevant in the industry, and then they think that they'll just have that idea that I want to go to industry, and then when I see the CV, that I don't see any relevance there. So this is something you need to be clear about. Very
Yes.
important. So this will help you get a good job in an industry
Yeah.
setting.
Nice. So Aniruddha have mentioned few things which I would like to emphasize on. All the viewers, listen carefully. If you are a molecular biologist, PCR, qPCR, this is what you want to do. But if you want to pursue a career in a diagnostic or somewhere where they are doing HPLC, GC, and other technology techniques, you should be familiarized with that. Because there, if you have to operate a machine of HPLC, you cannot say that you can do qPCR because obviously that's not what they want from you. So if you're considering to build a career in a specific industry, get all the skill set, what will be making you successful, your candidature is successful, and then you land there and you excel in that, because just getting into a position is not the goal which people think is the goal. Doing the what it wants, achieving the goals, excelling your own achievements in there is what it takes, and how one should consider all of these things well ahead. And that is what it helps most of you. And we hope that you all have a successful careers in those. So Aniruddha, coming back to the research part, so you have said the exposure of your IITs, then in industry, and then sometimes when people are, especially PhD students, when they are not getting their results, as you said, it was 3 years for you. There are cases now when students don't follow their, either they just quit the PhD or they do something which is even more horrible. What you want to suggest to a researcher who's giving their 100% or even more than that in terms of number of hours, in terms of number of sacrifices, because they cut off themselves from their friends, from their families, relatives, no extra curricular activities, just engrossed in research and seeing all the failures. What should they do?
So for them, one is something we already discussed, having something where you can channelize all this, negative. If you have a lot of negativity inside you, to channelize that. And second is looking at the big picture. Okay, so we not only in this case, with many other cases, the different scenarios also, we get bogged down by what is happening currently and not look at the big picture about life. It's a life. So your life is not just a PhD. Even
Mhm.
if you don't have a PhD, you can still have a great career in science. There are so many options today.
Yes.
So we get into that mindset where we get stuck and then think that this is my world, but when you're looking at something really small, whereas the world is really, big. So
Mhm.
you need to get out of that, and but getting that out of that is really, really tough. And I I also do a lot of, I'm into meditation, and so these things actually help one overcome that small-mindedness and getting
Mhm.
restricted to whatever you're doing. Of course, you when you're doing it, you do get restricted, but it is like, and then every day you are reminding yourself that no, hey, this is not me. Okay, I'm
Mhm.
something else. So
Mhm.
this is another way of doing the same thing, whatever I said, when you involving in a extracurricular activity, you feel good when you're doing that. Like you said, cycling, or
Mhm.
you do whatever you love. So when you're doing that, you forget about, let's say your lab or whatever is happening, and
Mhm.
then you totally get involved in that 100%. Then you know that you are not only that, you are also this. And that's a small, moment which you remember that. So
Yeah.
that takes your mind off that. So that again, that is the same thing, right? You're broadening your what you are like in horizon.
Mhm.
So people need to, broaden their perspective. That is one thing, and this is not just you. And from a scientific perspective, I think when something is not working right, you have to take a call, because there is no point in trying that again 10 times to 15 times, even if somebody else has tried it and then made it work for some reason. For you, if it is not working, I
Mhm.
think you need to change the strategy. So this is something I learned in an industry job, that you need to take quick decisions. So something is not working, look at it, and then also you just maybe try it twice, and after that it is not working, you know that things are not working, and then quickly take a decision,
Yes.
change it, whatever. If it's a project, change the project. If it's a
Mhm.
technique, change the technique, and then quickly move on. Don't get stuck. So this
Mhm.
is what. But I don't know if that decision is with you, then you can do it. Otherwise, maybe you have to convince your supervisor and
Yeah.
do that. So that's a possibility. I'm just saying that this is a possibility, not to get stuck, or even think that, oh, I put so much effort in this, now I want to continue. That's what happens, right? You get stuck. I
Yeah.
put this much effort, and I'll try it again and again. Then you try more and more and more time there. Then you have to let go and then take a decision, take a call, and then move on.
Yeah.
This is my
Actually, to all our viewers here, what Aniruddha just said, that it is good to move on. It is good to give your best effort, but what is more required is a decision making capacity, that you have to take a call at some point that, okay, I want to pursue this further, or I have better things to do. Your utilization of your time, your energy, your resources, you should be the master. And one thing which I always tell everybody, irrespective of their age, gender, or even occupation, I say do whatever makes you happy. If research make you happy, absolutely go for it. Be 24/7. Okay. If there is something else which makes you even lesser than that, you know, go for it. Because that is, if you have a backup plan also, this is what rejuvenates you and which brings more passion inside within you, so that you can just go for that extra mile. Because sometimes it is just about that extra mile, 99 failures, and the last experiment which you did, you achieved it. So that is one thing which I always say, and I believe that you all of them are ready to walk that extra mile. So coming back to Aniruddha, we are almost we are about to uh, at the end of the conversation. Here, when we talk about research, when we talk about frustration, people forget about the other responsibilities which they have. Either it is friends or their responsibility towards their family. How did you manage it?
So I did not get your responsibilities. I did not really get your question. Can you just please rephrase it?
So
Yeah,
the responsibility is, because sometimes research is so engrossing that it
yeah,
needs
yeah,
a lot of time. And then
yeah.
you
True.
have families, friends, relatives, their functions, organize, all of those activities, they are there. And sometimes
Yeah.
I have seen, or I believe most of the researchers can agree with me, that they sacrifice this part just to achieve their immediate goals, objectives, thinking that because they want to. take another leap of the faith. So, what are your
Yeah.
about it?
So I strongly believe in balance. Okay. Of course, although I believe in balance in the long term,
Mm-hmm.
there can be some phases in your research career where you'll be required to put in a lot more hours and continuous work. That's okay. That's a short time. I'm talking, let's say, for a week, you have to work for 18 hours a day without like having a conversation with somebody in your
Mm-hmm.
family. That's fine. But I'm just talking about you have to look at it from a long term and a short term perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Short term, uh, for some time, something like this is fine, but long term, I really believe in balance. So that's the reason why I engage myself in a lot of extracurricular activities
Mm-hmm.
and lot of service activities.
Mm-hmm.
So my overall, like I look at it from broader picture, my overall goal is to enhance myself as a person. So be it in research, be it in other activities which I'm doing, when I'm learning continuously, let's say when I'm learning guitar or learning dance, or when I'm involved in some service activities, interacting with some people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so enriching. So what happens is that indirectly feeds into your career. Your professional career improves, and then some that is something which people don't realize. Everything is related.
Yeah.
Because I've heard a lot of people tell me directly that, hey, what are you doing? You're, dancing now, and then you are actually calling yourself a scientist. Literally, I've heard people say this, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't care about it because I strongly believe that everything is related that way.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm actually saying is that I'm not just talking about extracurricular. Also, let's say spending time with your family or something like that. You need to balance that time out and not overdo it. So the key here is strategy and planning. So
Nice.
if you're good in strategizing
Mm-hmm.
to begin with, let's say you have a task in hand, strategizing how you're going to approach it with backup plan, and then you plan it in such a way your day-to-day activity very efficiently. You don't need to work around the clock. You just have to work in limited amount of time, have enough time for yourself, have me too time, and also give time for your family, your extracurricular activities. I'm a strong believer of that. Yeah.
Nice. It was great, Aniruddha. So now, Aniruddha said strategize and plan, but he also said another word, which let's go to. So you said you play guitar also. Is there a possibility that we can hear something now?
I would love to. So the moment you ask me, I will never stop. So you need to stop me now.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Because it is always good, and this is our first time at Researcher Celebrities that we are performing a guitarist who is a researcher who is a guitarist also. So you can be any of these, please. Aniruddha.
Okay. So this song is Nothing Else Matters from Metallica. So coincidentally, this was the first song that I learned on guitar. In fact, the guitar journey is I never learned guitar during my childhood or my college days. And after my PhD, I bought a guitar and started learning myself and started singing. So pardon me if I sound bad. So close, no matter how far. Couldn't be much more from the heart. Forever trusting who we are. And nothing else matters.
Thank you. Thank you.
Never cared for what they do. Never cared for what they know. And I know so close, no matter how far. Couldn't be much more from the heart. Forever trusting who we are. And nothing else matters. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Aniruddha. And with this, I would like to tell all of our viewers, science is one part, guitar is another one. You might have your own interest, pursue it, discover it, and then just go on. Research is one of the best options which gives you that you can pursue whatever you do really want to do. And at the end, I would like to thank Aniruddha for sharing your journey and playing this masterpiece for all of
Thank
our
you.
viewers. I am sure that people now might be contacting you. Some might contact you for research, some might contact you for guitar lessons. Thank you very much. Don't feel shy. All of you viewers, just either if you want to use Empowering Science Foundation platform, we can connect you with the researcher you want to be, you want to connect with, or Aniruddha is also ready to guide you, mentor you, whatever help he can do to for you, all of you. So for now, today we'll say thank you, Aniruddha, for sharing your journey, and for our viewers, we will see you all in another episode of Researchers Celebrity. Thank you, Aniruddha.
Thank you for having me.